The iconic series Magnum, PI was more than just breathtaking Hawaiian sunsets, high-speed chases, and thrilling cases. It was a defining show of the 1980s, brought to life by a beloved and talented cast. However, behind the glamour of television, the real lives of these actors held untold tragedies that few fans truly know about. Many of the stars of Magnum, PI faced heartbreaking struggles off-screen, from sudden illnesses and unexpected accidents to deeply personal battles. Some passed away in solitude, while others fought against relentless diseases until their final moments. Join us as we take a deeper look into their lives, uncovering the untold and often tragic stories of the actors who once brought joy to millions. Let's remember how they lived, loved, and ultimately left us in ways that remain both poignant and unforgettable. Born in 1952 in Panama, Marta Du Bois captivated audiences with her beauty, elegance, and a haunting depth that made her unforgettable as Michelle Hugh, the great love of Thomas Magnum in Magnum, PI. She played the role of a woman who slipped through Magnum's fingers like a bittersweet dream, an embodiment of love lost and longing unfulfilled. Outside of the show, Du Bois had a varied career, gracing screens in films such as Tales of the Gold Monkey and Lethal Weapon 3, while also appearing in numerous television roles where she brought a graceful strength to every character she touched. But despite the glamour and the adulation, she lived a life that was often lonely, filled with roles that never seemed to reflect the depth of the person she truly was. Then, in 2018, the cruel hand of fate struck without mercy. A sudden brain aneurysm stole her away, leaving no time for goodbyes, no moment for final reflections. 1 minute, she was here, and the next, gone, as if she had been nothing more than the ghostly presence she so often portrayed on screen. Those who knew her were left shattered, grieving in silence, for the world had already turned its back on its once bright star. She had played the part of a lost love in fiction, only for reality to echo the same cruel fate, fading into oblivion while the cameras rolled on without her. John Hillerman was born in 1932, a man of refined charm and effortless wit, best remembered as the fastidious Jonathan Quayle Higgins III in Magnum, PI. His portrayal of the stern but secretly warm-hearted estate manager endeared him to audiences, masking a life that was far from the order and control Higgins so prized. Raised in Texas, Hillerman was drawn to acting after a brief stint in the Air Force. Yet his road to stardom was neither swift nor easy. He spent years struggling, bouncing between stage performances and minor roles in films such as Lucky Lady, where he played Father Paddy McGinnis. Despite finally achieving fame in his late 40s, Hillerman was never truly comfortable in the limelight. He was a deeply private man, never marrying, never having children, and often retreating from the public eye. As Magnum, PI ended, so did the peak of his career. The phone calls from Hollywood slowed to a trickle, and he quietly withdrew to his home in Texas. Without the distraction of work, the solitude became overwhelming. Friends noticed his sharp humor growing softer, his presence diminishing. In his final years, his health deteriorated as heart disease tightened its grip on him. By the time he passed away in 2017 at the age of 84, the world barely noticed. The man who once commanded the screen with his eloquence and dry wit faded away in a quiet Texas town, far from the applause that once surrounded him, leaving behind only memories of his brilliant but lonely life. Phyllis N. Davis, born on July 17, 1940, in Port Arthur, Texas, graced the screen with a charm that belied the complexities of her life. In Magnum, PI, she brought to life characters like Cleo Mitchell and Magnum's 1940s secretary, roles that highlighted her versatility. Beyond this, she captivated audiences as Beatrice Travis in Vega Dollar, standing alongside Robert Urich's Dantana. Her journey began in the solemn halls above her parents' mortuary business in Nederland, Texas, a setting that perhaps instilled in her a profound understanding of life's fragility. Seeking brighter horizons, she ventured to Los Angeles in 1965, immersing herself in acting classes at the Pasadena Playhouse. While her professional life flourished, her personal life saw its share of turbulence. Notably, she had a long-term relationship with actor Dean Martin in the 1970s, and another with horse jockey Lafayette Pinkney Jr. in the 1980s. The curtain fell on her life on September 27, 2013, when she succumbed to cancer in Henderson, Nevada, leaving fans to mourn the loss of a luminous star whose personal narrative was as poignant as any role she portrayed. Danny Kamakona, born in 1935, was a Hawaiian actor whose face graced both the small and big screens, embodying a multitude of characters, including the enigmatic Hoon Ching and John in Magnum, P.I. He played roles that added depth and authenticity to the series, portraying both dangerous and noble figures with a quiet intensity that left an indelible mark on audiences. Beyond Magnum, P.I., he found wider recognition in The Karate Kid Part 2 as the vengeful Sato, a role that showcased his ability to bring layers of emotion to even the most hardened characters. His filmography spanned decades, yet behind the strength he projected on screen lay a man haunted by the passage of time and the ghosts of a past that never quite let him go. Tragedy struck in 1996 when Kamakona was found lifeless in his sleep in Los Angeles. The circumstances of his death were shrouded in an eerie quiet. No dramatic farewell, no grand gestures, just the simple, heart-wrenching reality of a life slipping away unnoticed. A man who had once brought such vitality to the screen was gone in an instant, leaving behind whispers of what could have been. His family and loved ones mourned him, yet Hollywood barely paused, moving on as if he had never been there. A forgotten warrior in the battle of show business, his memory lingers only in the echoes of his roles and the hearts of those who still remember. Roger E. Mosley entered the world in 1938, a man of boundless energy and effortless cool, immortalized as the charismatic helicopter pilot Theodore T.C. Calvin on Magnum, P.I. With his easygoing charm and infectious laugh, Mosley exuded warmth on screen, but life behind the camera was not always as lighthearted. Born and raised in the tough neighborhoods of Los Angeles, he faced hardship from an early age. Determined to rise above his circumstances, he fought against racial barriers and the lack of opportunities for black actors in Hollywood. His talent was undeniable, shining in roles like Brutus Jones in The Emperor Jones, proving he was far more than just a sidekick. Yet despite his success, he was never truly given the recognition he deserved. The frustration of being typecast weighed heavily on him. He remained resilient, focusing on his family, his wife, Tony, and their children, but even love could not shield him from the heartbreaks of life. As he grew older, he watched as the industry moved on without him, leaving him in the shadows of his former fame. In August 2022, tragedy struck when a devastating car accident left him paralyzed. The vibrant, active man who once soared through the skies on screen was now confined to a hospital bed, helpless and in pain. The days that followed were filled with suffering, his body failing him as he struggled to hold on. On August 7th, just 3 days after the crash, he succumbed to his injuries. His passing was a painful reminder of the fleeting nature of life and fame. A man who had once brought joy to millions, now taken in such a cruel and heartbreaking manner. Kwan Hai Lim was born in 1922, a man whose presence on screen was quiet yet powerful, embodying the steady, perceptive Lieutenant Yoshi Tanaka in Magnum, P.I. He was not the typical Hollywood star. Before acting, he lived a vastly different life as an attorney in Hawaii, dedicating years to the legal profession before the lure of television and film drew him in. His career blossomed late, and while he never attained the fame of leading men, his face became familiar in countless crime dramas, a reliable presence in shows like Hawaii Five-0 and Jake and the Fat Man. But his life, much like his reserved performances, was marked by an undercurrent of solitude. Acting was a second career, a distraction, perhaps, from the personal battles he rarely discussed. Friends described him as a private man, one who carried his burdens silently. By the time his health began failing, the world had all but forgotten his contributions. In 2008, he passed away at the age of 86, slipping away in the place where his journey had begun, Hawaii. There were no grand tributes, no flood of media coverage. His departure was quiet, much like the man himself, leaving behind a lifetime of work that few truly appreciated, a legacy buried beneath the ever-moving tide of Hollywood's short memory. Elisha Cook Jr. was born in 1903, a man whose career spanned decades. but whose life was riddled with shadows as dark as the film noirs that made him famous. His role as the enigmatic Francis "Ice Pick" Hofstetler in Magnum, P.I. was just another chapter in a long and storied career that began in the silent film era. A master of playing the downtrodden, the desperate, the villain lurking in the background, he made his mark in classics like The Maltese Falcon and The Big Sleep. But the tough, scheming characters he played on screen paled in comparison to the struggles he faced in real life. Cook was married 3 times, each relationship leaving behind scars. He yearned for love, yet he never seemed to find the happiness he sought. As age crept in, so did the cruelest of fates. His mind began to fade. Dementia stole from him the memories of his career, his friendships, his life's work. In 1995, at the age of 91, he died in a nursing home, his once vibrant life reduced to the quiet shuffle of forgotten days. The industry barely noticed, the world had moved on, and the man who had spent a lifetime playing small but unforgettable roles simply vanished from memory, like a whisper in the dark. Born in 1915, Orson Welles was a man of staggering talent, an actor, director, and writer who reshaped cinema and radio. He was a towering figure of art and intellect, yet in Magnum, P.I., he was merely a voice, a whisper behind the enigmatic Robin Masters, the unseen, mysterious benefactor of Magnum's luxurious Hawaiian estate. His deep, resonant voice carried weight and power, yet in the twilight of his career, Welles was often reduced to lending that legendary voice to projects that barely reflected the genius of the man behind Citizen Kane. Once Hollywood's golden prodigy, he had become an outcast, wandering from one project to another, struggling to finance films that no one wanted to back. His personal life was no less turbulent. A man of grand passions and endless ambition, he married multiple times, yet never seemed to find the happiness he so often sought. His relationships were strained, his health deteriorating, and his once glorious career reduced to doing voiceovers for cartoons and commercials. Then, in 1985, alone in his Hollywood home, he slumped over his typewriter, his heart betraying him in his final moments. No grand cinematic farewell, no grandiose final monologue, just silence, as one of the greatest voices in film history was snuffed out. The world moved on quickly, remembering the legend but forgetting the man, as he had so often feared. Eugene Roche, born in 1928, was best known for his warmth and comedic brilliance, a man who could make audiences smile with just a look. As Luther H. Gillis in Magnum, P.I., he played the bumbling yet endearing private detective, a character full of charm, wit, and an unshakable determination that made him a fan favorite. Roche was a familiar face in American television, appearing in All in the Family, Webster, and countless sitcoms, always bringing an effortless humor that masked the weight he carried in his own heart. Beneath the laughter, however, lay the quiet sorrows of a man who never quite got his due. Though beloved, he was never a leading man, always the sidekick, the comic relief, the afterthought. His personal life was a series of struggles, raising a large family while constantly working, his career never quite reaching the heights he had hoped for. Then, in 2004, fate played its final cruel trick. He suffered a heart attack and passed away, leaving behind a world that barely paused to acknowledge the loss of a man who had brought them so much joy. In the end, he was like so many comedic actors, loved but forgotten too soon, his laughter echoing only in reruns, his pain unseen by those who only saw the smile. Jeff McKay was born in 1948, a man whose career seemed filled with promise, yet fate had other plans. He brought humor and loyalty to the role of Lieutenant McReynolds and the lovable rogue Jim Bonnick on Magnum, P.I., capturing the essence of a best friend who would always be there, no matter what. Off-screen, he was just as warm, a man who lit up every set he walked onto. But behind that infectious energy lay a life filled with struggles. McKay was a character actor, always a familiar face, but never quite a star. He moved through roles and tales of the Gold Monkey and Jag, but the big break he so desperately longed for never arrived. As the years passed, his career began to slow, and with it, so did his spirit. The lack of recognition weighed on him, and while he continued working, the spark that once made him a scene stealer grew dim. In 2008, tragedy struck, At just 59, he was gone, taken too soon by liver failure. His death was a sobering reminder of the brutal nature of the industry he loved so much. One moment he was there, the next, just another name on a long list of actors whose talent was never fully appreciated until it was too late. His passing left a hole in the hearts of those who knew him, but the world moved on, as it always does, forgetting too soon the man who had once made audiences laugh, who had given his all to a career that, in the end, gave him so little in return. Glenn Cannon was born in 1932, a man whose intellect and presence made him the perfect choice for Magnum, PI's dependable Dr. Eyebold. As the island's resident physician, he was the voice of reason amid chaos, the steady hand in a storm. But in real life, stability was a luxury he rarely enjoyed. Cannon was more than just an actor. He was a passionate educator, dedicating much of his life to teaching drama at the University of Hawaii. His students adored him, but the sacrifices of academia and the unpredictability of Hollywood left him struggling between two worlds. Despite his many contributions to television, including roles in Hawaii Five-0 and Jake and the Fat Man, he was never a household name. He poured his heart into his work, yet the recognition he deserved never came. As the years passed, his health began to fail, and his once booming voice grew softer. Alone in his later years, far from the cameras that once captured his talent, he succumbed to cancer in 2013 at the age of 80. There were no headlines, no grand tributes, just the quiet end of a man who had given so much to an industry that had long since moved on without him. In the sunlit corridors of Hollywood's golden era, Lance Legault, born William Lance Legault on May 2, 1935, in Chicago, Illinois, carved a niche as the quintessential military man on screen. His portrayal of Colonel Buck Green in Magnum, PI showcased his commanding presence, a trait he carried into roles such as Colonel Roderick Decker in The A-Team and Colonel Glass in Stripes. But behind the stern facade lay a man shaped by early hardships. After his father's untimely death in 1941, young Lance found himself in an orphanage, a testament to a childhood marked by loss and resilience. Despite these challenges, he pursued education, attending the Municipal University of Wichita on a football scholarship. His personal life saw moments of joy, marrying Teresa Legault and fathering 4 children. Mary, Teresa, Marcus, and William Lance Jr. Yet, the shadows of his early years perhaps lingered, culminating in his passing from heart failure on September 10, 2012, at his home in Los Angeles, leaving behind a legacy interwoven with both triumph and tragedy. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from Magnum, PI? Who do you miss the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest videos.